Hello everyone. Welcome to today's presentation on how to avoid plagiarism. I'm excited to have you here. The title of our session is How to Avoid Plagiarism. Throughout this presentation, we'll explore key strategies to help you understand what constitutes plagiarism, how to prevent it, and how to develop original work with confidence. I'll keep it concise and practical, so let's get started. In the English-speaking academic world, it is absolutely essential to use a wide range of sources for your writing. This means not just relying on one or two references, but exploring different books, articles, and other materials to support your ideas. Equally important is acknowledging these sources clearly. Giving proper credit shows integrity and helps your readers understand where your information is coming from. This slide highlights why these practices are so vital. Throughout this lesson, I'll explain the reasons behind this emphasis on variety and transparency. I'll also introduce you to some key techniques that will help you in both academic assignments and research projects. So, whether you're working on essays, reports, or research papers, understanding how to incorporate and cite sources correctly will strengthen your work and uphold academic standards. This is a fundamental part of academic writing, and mastering it will really boost your confidence and credibility. So, what exactly is plagiarism? Well, in simple terms, plagiarism is when someone presents someone else's work or ideas as their own, without giving proper credit. It's essentially a form of academic dishonesty and can take many forms, from copying text directly to paraphrasing someone else's ideas without acknowledgement. It's important to understand that plagiarism isn't just about copying from the internet. It can happen in many ways, whether it's copying a paragraph, using someone else's images or data, or even rephrasing ideas without citing the original source. Highlighting this concept is crucial because, as we go through this presentation, we'll see how plagiarism impacts not just academics, but also professional integrity and personal honesty. Recognizing what constitutes plagiarism helps us avoid unintentional mistakes and emphasizes the importance of giving credit where it's due. In the broader context of our presentation, understanding plagiarism is the first step toward developing ethical research and writing habits, which are essential in maintaining credibility and trust in any field. Basically, plagiarism means taking ideas or words from a source without giving proper credit or acknowledgement to the original author. It's like claiming someone else's work as your own, which is a serious issue. Think of it as a kind of theft. When you copy someone's work without permission, you're stealing their intellectual property. Because of that, plagiarism is considered an academic crime, and it can have serious consequences. Throughout this presentation, we're emphasizing the importance of originality and giving credit where it's due. Understanding what plagiarism is helps us avoid it and maintain integrity in our work. In academic work, ideas and words are considered private property, meaning they belong to the person who first thought of or wrote them. This is a core principle that helps protect original thinking and creativity. Because of this, it's really important for all students and researchers to understand what plagiarism actually is. Knowing the meaning behind it helps us avoid unintentional mistakes and ensures we respect others' intellectual property. So, one important point to consider is that reading and understanding the work of principal experts on a subject is essential. This means giving proper citations to show that you've engaged with their ideas. But it's not just about quoting others. It's about explaining those ideas in your own words, which helps you truly internalize the concepts. When you do this, you're able to come to your own original conclusions, which makes your work more authentic and meaningful. Now, the main difficulty students often face is that they are expected to do all of this: read, interpret, cite, and analyze, often simultaneously. It can feel overwhelming because these tasks require not only comprehension, but also critical thinking and synthesis. Remember, the goal is to demonstrate your understanding and your ability to connect ideas, not just to repeat what others have said. That's a key challenge, but also a valuable skill to develop in your academic journey. Let's talk about why you must avoid plagiarism. Copying the work of others might seem like an easy shortcut, but it really doesn't help you develop your own understanding of the material. When you do your own work, you actively engage with the subject and learn more effectively. Showing that you understand the rules of the academic community is also crucial. It demonstrates integrity and respect for the standards set by your educators. Remember, plagiarism is often easily detected, whether by teachers or through specialized software. So it's not a foolproof shortcut, it's actually quite risky. Getting caught can lead to serious consequences, like failing a course or even having to leave college altogether. That's why it's so important to avoid plagiarism. It preserves your credibility, helps you genuinely learn, and keeps you in good standing within your academic community. Now, let's talk about acknowledging sources. It's really important to give credit where it's due, not just to maintain integrity, but also to build trust with your audience. When you reference information, data, or ideas, make sure to clearly identify the original source. This can be as simple as citing a report, mentioning a study, or referencing a particular author or organization. Highlighting your sources also shows that you've done your research and adds credibility to your presentation. Remember, connecting your sources back to your main points helps reinforce your message and demonstrates transparency. So, always be diligent about acknowledging your sources. It's a key part of responsible and effective communication. When you borrow from or refer to the work of another person, it's essential to show that you've done this properly by providing the correct acknowledgement. This not only gives credit where it's due, but also helps maintain your credibility. There are two main ways to do this. Now, when you're acknowledging your sources, remember there are two key ways to do this effectively: summarizing the main ideas in your own words or directly quoting the original text. Both are important tools to give credit and to strengthen your arguments. These in-text citations are crucial because they connect the specific points we discuss to the broader body of academic work, which is listed in the references at the end of the main text. For example, when I mention Smith's work from 2009, titled Power and the State, published by Palgrave Macmillan, it provides a solid foundation for understanding how power dynamics operate within the state. This linking of citations to references helps us trace back ideas and verify sources, ensuring our discussion remains credible and well-supported. When we talk about a citation, it's really about showing that you've read Smith and that you're building on his ideas. It's a way to give credit and make your work more credible. The citation makes it clear to the reader that you've done your homework and that the idea is just your own, but borrowed from someone else. On the other hand, the reference provides the full details of the source. So, if someone wants to dig deeper or verify the information, they know exactly where to look. It's like giving the map to find the original source. Now, it's important to understand the difference between a citation and a reference. The citation appears within your text, usually right after the borrowed idea, while the reference is listed at the end of your document or presentation. This distinction is crucial because both serve different purposes but work together to support your work's integrity. So, in summary, citations point to the source within your text, showing you've read and acknowledged it, and references give the details needed for others to locate that source. This concept ties into our overall theme of responsible and credible research practices. It's all about transparency and giving proper credit where it's due. Now, let's take a closer look at the different degrees of plagiarism. First, we have minor plagiarism, which might involve small sections copied without proper citation, but the intent isn't necessarily malicious. Next, there's moderate plagiarism, where larger parts are copied, and it becomes more evident that proper attribution is missing. Finally, complete or severe plagiarism involves copying entire works or substantial parts, presenting someone else's work as your own. Understanding these distinctions is crucial because it helps us recognize the severity and impact of different types of plagiarism. Although plagiarism is generally understood as copying someone else's work, it's not always straightforward to define. Sometimes, what counts as plagiarism can be a gray area, especially in academic settings. For example, consider different situations where students or researchers might be tempted to reuse material. The key point here is that not all copying is equally clear-cut. We need to think about the degrees of plagiarism, how severe or subtle the copying might be, and recognize that some cases are more problematic than others. This helps us understand why it's important to be aware of what constitutes plagiarism and to be vigilant in avoiding it. So let's look at two common situations that can lead to questions about plagiarism. First, imagine you're citing some information, but you accidentally misspell the author's name. While this might seem like a small mistake, it's actually considered careless plagiarism because you're not accurately giving credit. It's important to be precise and correct when citing sources to avoid this kind of issue. Now, in the second situation, you're discussing an essay topic with classmates and using some of their ideas in your own work. If your teacher encouraged group discussions and then asked you to write your own essay, that's perfectly fine. In this case, sharing ideas in a group and then creating your own work isn't plagiarism because it's part of the learning process and properly guided. Let's talk about self-plagiarism, which is an interesting area in academic integrity. For example, if you take a paragraph from an essay you wrote last semester and reuse it without citing, that's considered self-plagiarism. It's important to recognize that this can be tricky because it blurs the lines between reusing your work and original writing. Another key point is the concept of general or common knowledge. For instance, you might say that large areas of rainforest have been cut down in recent years. That kind of information is widely known and doesn't require citation. But it can sometimes be difficult to decide what counts as common knowledge, especially when the information is less obvious or more specialized. In these cases, a good rule of thumb is to ask colleagues or mentors if you're unsure. When in doubt, it's safer to provide a citation. Overall, understanding these distinctions helps us maintain integrity in a writing and avoid unintentional plagiarism. Let's remember that claiming you didn't know the rules of plagiarism, or that you didn't have enough time to write in your own words, isn't a valid excuse. It's important to understand that ignorance of the rules doesn't exempt you from following them. Similarly, saying that the rules are different in your country doesn't hold up. Plagiarism is generally recognized universally. In most cases, anything that isn't common knowledge or your own ideas and research, whether published or not, must be properly cited and referenced. This is about giving credit where it's due and maintaining academic integrity. So always be mindful. If it's not your original idea or common knowledge, make sure to cite it. Remember, following these guidelines keeps your work honest and credible, and it's a fundamental part of the research process. Now, let's talk about summarizing and paraphrasing. When it comes to using quotations in our work, it's important not to overdo it. Instead, we should focus on paraphrasing and summarizing the ideas of other writers. This approach helps us incorporate their insights seamlessly into our own writing. By doing so, we also show that we truly understand the material. Teachers, advisors, and examiners can see that we've grasped the key concepts, rather than just copying word for word. Most importantly, this technique helps us avoid plagiarism. Summarizing and paraphrasing are essential skills for academic honesty. So remember, aim to explain ideas in your own words, connect them to your overall argument, and use this strategy to demonstrate your comprehension and critical thinking. Paraphrasing is a crucial skill in effective communication. Paraphrasing involves rewriting a text so that the language is substantially different while the content stays the same. This is a crucial skill because it allows us to express ideas in a new way, making the information more accessible or better suited to different audiences. When we paraphrase effectively, we're not just changing a few words. We're restructuring the sentence and choosing synonyms that fit naturally, all while maintaining the original meaning. This technique is especially important in academic writing, content creation, and communication because it helps avoid plagiarism and demonstrates a clear understanding of the material. All right, so let's talk about summarizing. Basically, summarizing is about shortening a text, making it more concise. But the key is that even as we cut down the length, we want to make sure we're still capturing all the main points. It's about finding that balance between brevity and clarity. When you summarize well, you highlight the most important ideas without getting lost in the details. This skill is really useful because it helps us communicate effectively, especially when we're dealing with complex information or trying to make a quick point. Throughout this presentation, we've seen how summarizing ties into overall clear communication. It's a powerful tool for making information accessible and memorable. Normally, when we're working on writing a text or a research paper, both skills, paraphrasing and summarizing, are used simultaneously. These two techniques are essential tools in our writing toolkit because they help us communicate ideas clearly and efficiently. In our next lesson, we're going to focus specifically on how to effectively use paraphrasing and summarizing techniques. This will be incredibly helpful for improving the way you integrate sources and present information in your writing. Remember, mastering these skills not only makes your work more original and credible, but also ensures you respect intellectual property. So, stay tuned for our next session, where we'll dive deeper into practical methods and strategies for paraphrasing and summarizing.